Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Agent Advantage. My name is Lorne Cooper, and today I'm joined by Carlyn Goudas from Cleveland, Ohio. And Carlyn, please say hello to the good people and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Carlyn. Like Lauren said, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I started being a real estate agent in 2014. My dad is a commercial broker, so I kind of feel like I always had it around me. But quite honestly, I never really thought of myself as being a salesperson, so to speak. So I was a little hesitant on becoming a realtor. In fact, I laugh about it with my husband because my goal was to sell 4 houses my first year and to not put pressure on me. And I kind of got into it and really enjoyed it. And, just came fairly easy to me. I didn't feel like I was very salesy. So I really enjoyed it. And here I am today.
So, what were you doing before you got into real estate?
So I was a full-time yoga teacher, teaching 15 classes a week. I really kind of flew by the seat of my pants. I like to travel a lot and teach classes, and I kind of wanted to have a very laid-back lifestyle, but that was not very realistic once you have a family.
Yeah, tell me about it. I was a musician before I was in real estate.
Oh
So,
yeah, so yeah, you get it. Similar kind of, it's hard to make it.
yeah, definitely. So, 2014, you get it, your real estate license. What was that all about? I know you're on a team now. Did you join a team right away? Did you try to go solo? What was the story there?
No, so I have been on the team since I started. I'm with Howard Hanna, and we're the Crockett team. Sorry, so we're a team of about 20 agents or so, and they were the first place that I have been with, and I've been there ever since. My goal is to eventually break off and have my own team and do that, but right now I have 5 little kids, and I really prefer the structure having it set up with the team. So right now this works for me.
So a lot of people right away they get scared of the team idea when they get into real estate. They want to think, okay, number one, I have my own identity. I don't want to lose that. Number two, I don't want to give away half of what I'm earning without realizing that it's difficult to earn anything, at all in the beginning. So what was your decision process to join the team?
You know what? I was in a position financially where anything was better than nothing. So for me, I just wanted to get involved in the business and have as much training as possible and learn. And quite honestly, it was like being baptized by fire. There's so many agents on our team that are incredible agents, and our team admin has been there for 20, 30 years. So they are phenomenal at really helping educate new agents in the process. And quite honestly, I think if you're a new agent, being on a team is probably the best decision you could make, simply because you're going to be guided and given the advice. And, let's face it, I've been in the business for 9 years, and I learn something new every single transaction. So I don't care if you've been in the business for 40 years. We always hear that I've been in the business for 40 years. You still have something new to learn every single transaction. So especially when you're a new agent, there's so much out there that you need to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to have that support system. So, a 20-person team, I mean, that's a pretty hefty sized team. Uh, what was the dynamic like when you got in there? Was there a period where you were kind of in mentorship or training phase before you were given your own sort of listings or buyers? How did that work?
So you know what? For me, it was a little untraditional. There are trainings that you're supposed to do, like as a new agent. I kind of, I kind of just went in there and did my own thing. I wanted to go in there. I wanted to hustle. I wanted to make money, and I wanted to be the best that I could be as quickly as possible. So I went in, and yes, there was kind of basic training on systems that are set, and how to write up a contract, and what to do with all of that. So a lot of the beginning part was that. But I think if you really dive into this career, you are learning as you go. And as long as you're open to that and receptive of that information with the people around you, I ask a lot of questions too. It's just kind of my nature. So that's what I did. And then I started prospecting that, my office mate, he prospected a lot, and I really looked up to that, and he was very successful, still is. And I was like, okay, I could do that. Like, let's go. And he was always calling expireds, and I was like, well, how come nobody's calling these for sale by owners? Like, this is a whole slew of people that nobody's touching. And I started doing that, and I got an appointment, and then kind of continued that repetition and stayed really consistent with that.
Excellent. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more, but first I want to ask you, when you're going on to the team, Were there clear expectations set for how much business you need to bring, how much prospecting you need to do, what is was expected of you overall?
That's a great question. No, there was not. But at the same time, it was funny because I joke about it with my brokers. I live about 25 minutes away, 30 minutes away from my physical office. Right now, I'm at my home offices, and this is where I primarily work. But we kind of joked around because they were like, I don't know if you're going to be such a good fit. We might have to like transfer you to like a more local office. And I was like, what? Like, what the hell? I came here. Like, what do you mean? Like, why would you transfer me? This is where I want to be. Like, this is like, why would you say that to me? And I think just because I was very direct and I asked a lot of questions, maybe that was a little too much for what they were used to at that time. I think that the systems have changed now. I think they do have a lot more expectations when agents start the team, like how much you're going to do in the first few months, and there's more goals that are expected. When I joined, 8, 9 years ago, it was just kind of like, let's see how you do, and if it works out, it works out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And thankfully it did really quickly, and I kind of set sail.
So, what about expectations on your side? What expectations did you have from joining the team, and were they met or not?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned earlier, my goal was, I mean, I was quite honestly, I mean, I don't tell a lot of people this, but people who are in my close community know, like I was making $6, 7 thousand a year teaching yoga, and I was busting my tail. It was exhausting. I was tired of hearing myself speak at the end of the day. So my goal was to just make more than what I was making teaching yoga. So I had a goal of selling 4 houses my first year, one a quarter. I told my husband, don't put pressure on me. One house a quarter will double our income. So this is what my goal is. And I ended up selling about $5 million of real estate my first year.
Great,
So,
excellent.
yes,
So,
I exceeded that goal.
so you were put in a room with someone who was a pretty, consistent prospector, and as
Yes.
you said, he was prospecting mainly expireds, was it?
Yes.
Okay, and then you thought, okay, he's got the expired thing going. Why don't I go for sale by owner? How did that come about, and what was your attack? How did you attack that whole prospecting?
Yeah, I mean, so we work from a system called Vulcan, and he was calling all expireds, and I was exploring the system. I was like, oh, for sale by owners, like, what's this about? And I went in there and I saw that nobody had contacted any for sale by owners. So I was like, that's crazy. How come nobody's doing this? And he said, I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit harder. They put up a lot of more fighting. Expireds are obviously used to agents, so they're a little bit more ready. So I was like, all right, well, if nobody's doing this, I might as well try it. And I, got on the phone and I obviously listened to him speak for a while and kind of role played a little bit with him and kind of how the conversation is supposed to go. And, obviously trying to get the seller the net number that they want with for sale by owners. That's primarily their concern. And just really practice kind of the conversation and how that was gonna go. I did go on listing appointments with him and kind of saw how he operated, asked him a bunch of questions. And I really admired his success, and he had also spoken to other local agents who were also incredibly successful. So he learned from the best as well. So I really latched onto him and what he was doing, and then just kind of created my own path with for sale by owners.
Okay, so what was your schedule looking like back in those days when you first started? Were you doing it
Okay.
consistently? Was it a little inconsistent? What was the story there?
So as well as teaching yoga, I also was working as a server in a restaurant. So I needed to, and I had 2 young children at the time. So it was very much as I could possibly work, I would work, but it wasn't consistent. So anytime that my husband was home from his job, I would go and work. And usually that was like afternoons and evenings. And I would just get on the phone when I went into the office. I would do lots of open houses because obviously that's where new agents need to pick up business and get used to talking to people and being comfortable speaking. But I would just get on the phone, and even if it was calling 2 or 3 people, because for sale by owners conversations last a lot longer, at least I was getting on the phone and doing that. So that's kind of what I was doing. I think it took me maybe about a month to get my first listing.
After doing it consistently 4 or 5
Yeah,
days a week?
yeah, and I would say I would probably say I worked like a good three days a week for sure, 4 days a week. Like I couldn't work 40 hours a week
Sure.
because I had a restaurant job and then I had to take care of my kids, and the timing was there's only so much time that I was able to allocate. But I would say for sure like the 3 days a week, and then weekends I would do open houses.
Okay. The reason I ask is because of expectations. When people are first getting started in the industry, or they're either thinking about, just getting started on a new method of prospecting, they don't
Yeah.
really know what realistic expectations are. So it's good to hear from the experience of somebody else that have, I put in this many hours, this is the result sort of that I got. Now,
Yeah.
how you attacked it, you said that you listened to your buddy, expired guy,
Yeah.
and we'll call him expired guy for now,
Okay.
and you got an idea of kind of how the conversation should flow with somebody on the phone. Can you give me an example of kind of what that sounded like? What
For
was
the
the
expired
introduction?
call?
Yeah, when you first called them up, how did you introduce yourself? Because as you said, we know for sale by owners, it could be pretty resistant to talking to realtors.
Yeah.
So what was your approach?
So my approach with the for sale by owner was really high. I very much look into the house before I call. So some agents, they just get on an auto dialer and they're calling and calling and calling. But my concern with that was that I didn't have enough information. So I would look up the house, and it would take a little longer, obviously at first. Now I'm a lot quicker at doing it, but I would look up the comps. I would look at the house. I would look at the pictures of the house. Like, what is it? How many updates are done? How nice is it? And I would call and just say, hi, how are you? This is Carlyn. Just kind of just wondering how things are going for you. I like your house. And, why are you selling for sale by owner? It's typically the commission. If I can make you the net number that you want to on the house, and I have A, B, and C to create more value for you, would you be interested in talking to me? If I'm really confident I can make this net number for you. And they were really open to talking about it, but it would take a lot more convincing and kind of longer conversations. But that's kind of how I would open the door of just showing interest in the home, and creating the value that I'm able to provide to them, but also making sure that their net number is going to be targeted.
And how many contacts would it take before you got an appointment with for sale by owner?
Um, Honestly, I think that I would call like two or three people and I would set an appointment. Like I remember my husband kind of joking around and saying like you call two or three people and you have already success with getting an appointment with out of three people, one conversion.
Mhm.
So I remember it being a pretty good conversion rate. And I still feel that my conversion rate is really good now, but now the market that we're in today has shifted a little bit to people being able to be more successful doing it on their own. So you have to be a lot more creative and, at the same time sensitive, and understanding what kind of a person you're talking to.
Okay. And when you get to the door, then how do you create that value for them? What is it that you tell them that you can do for them that they can't do for themselves?
Well, I have this presentation that we make in a book, which looks very professional, and you'd be surprised how many agents go unprepared to a listing appointment. So I want to show up and be the best that I can with as much information as possible. I show interest in looking at the home and making connections personally with them. Like, oh, I love the picture of Greece on your wall. I'm half Greek, and I kind of create that connection personally with people, and I feel that that definitely helps people warm up to you as opposed to somebody coming in and just being strict business. Create that relationship, and then it's just kind of looking at the house. How can I create more? If their house is listed, for example, 200,000, and I see that they've got upgraded granite and nice brand new carpeting or brand new wooden floors, or they just finished their basement, and I can maybe up the price a little bit, five, six, $7,000, and kind of work with them on that side, then that's going to kind of eat up quite a bit of the commission that they're concerned about. And then having professional photography and more social media, online advertising, and marketing that I'm pitching to them, then hopes that they could see that, hey, here's value that I can't do for myself just throwing it up on Zillow or whatever it is that they're doing.
Great. So that was your main method back then. Is that still your main source of business for sale by owners?
Yes, yeah, it is. Obviously, I've gotten better at doing it, and the conversations get a little bit more challenging in the market time that we're in.
Mhm.
But yeah, primarily I sold about 75, 80 houses last year, and I would say over 50 of them were probably working with the list side.
Excellent. Now, in terms of the team, what, if any, business is the team giving you? Are they generating like online leads or repeat and referral or anything like that?
I mean, I, have my own repeat business and referral business. Obviously that's the goal as an agent to continue to have that personal growth.
Right.
No, I mean, they're not really giving me any leads that are not generated already from my own business.
From your activities.
Yeah, I mean, we have Zillow leads that come in, but I haven't chosen to take them.
Okay. And you're focusing now, what is your schedule looking like? Is it similar to the way that it was before, or is it different now?
I mean, my life is just crazy. Right in this moment today, I'm in a bit of a situation because I'm going through childcare change. So I'm having to be a little bit more flexible. But my general idea, my general gist of working is I work every single day, probably I would say at least 4 to 5 hours a day, some days more, some days a little less, just depending on what's going on. Now I have 5 kids, before I had two. So they're all under the age of 11. So generally, my lifestyle has to be very much in ebb and flow, but it is a priority that I always schedule time for calls and prospecting and follow up.
And how do you follow up? So let's say, you get an appointment with somebody, you go there, they're not ready to sign anything. What is your process of following up with those people?
Honestly, I'm pretty relentless. I mean, I'm pretty annoying. um, the squeaky, what is it? What's that phrase? The squeaky wheel,
Squeaky wheel gets
whatever.
the grease.
Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I write notes, kind of old fashioned, write notes, and I'll say Monday follow up with Adam, and if he tells me to follow up in a week, I'll probably follow up in 4 or 5 days. I'll send him a text. I'll give him another call. What if I've gone to an appointment and I haven't secured that listing? I'm following up the next day, and then I'll even tell the seller, hey, give yourself a deadline, because you're just going to continue to spin your wheels in hopes that you're going to get an offer or some interested buyer who's showing you attention, and you're going to wait a little bit longer, and then we're losing valuable market time. So I really try to get them to set themselves a deadline,
Mhm.
and then I'll follow up again on that deadline that we've created.
So give me a little insight into that dialogue, because I like that idea where you're telling them to give them a deadline. Give me an idea of how you bring that up and what you say exactly.
I mean, you have to be pretty assertive with for sale by owners, because they're already very confident in being able to do it themselves. But you have to understand the personality that you're talking to. If you're talking to a very dominant personality, you can't be super, super pushy on them, because that's going to freak them out and piss them off, quite frankly. But at the same time, if you're dealing with somebody who's a little bit softer, I think it's important to be really direct and say, okay, hey, listen, if they're not ready to sign, the conversation is like, okay, I understand, take your time and thinking about it. Today's Saturday. Why don't we follow up on Monday? And if you haven't had any offer in your hand, any physical offer, then why don't we move forward from there? I can have my professional photographer out here by Tuesday, and we can set an open house up and get rolling. Because the last thing you want to do is sit here and expect a buyer who's going to show you attention, that maybe they're going to write an offer, but let's face it, if they've got interest in the property, they're not sleeping on it for 2 days. They're going to write an offer.
Right.
So let's not waste valuable market time, and let's get the home listed if you don't have a physical offer in hand. And usually they're pretty open and receptive to that idea. And then of course there's every random seller who kind of just wants to be a little bit more stubborn and wait and wait and wait. And then they either get that offer or they get the offer and then it falls apart a month later and we're having another discussion.
Right. So if they get the offer, you're following up to see if that's going through or not.
Yeah, I do. I congratulate them. I mean, I want to be helpful for them, and I let them know that, hey, I'm here for you if you have any questions. Because I want to create that relationship regardless, so that if something does happen, I'm their first person that they're thinking about.
Right.
At the same time, I don't want to waste time with that seller if they've already have a house under contract. I'm going to continue prospecting and create more business. But yeah, generally I'll text them maybe about a week or two down the line, typically after inspections, and I'll be like, hey, how did it go? Do you need anything? And it's kind of half half. A lot of the times they're good to go, and every once in a while it'll fall apart and they'll need our help.
Right. Now, what about a dialogue on where they're going? Do they need help purchasing? Do you ever have that conversation with them?
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of times my sellers who eventually become my sellers as opposed to for sale by owner become my buyers as well. And I do offer, a little bit of a price reduction, and that helps for the commission, just because I mean, even if it's a quarter of a percent or whatever it is, it's still helpful, because again, the for sale by owner, their main concern is their net number. So if you can work with them at all on a commission and still get them their net number that they want, then I'll kind of offer that kind of reduction so that they would buy with me as well. And most of the time they want to anyway, because we've now created a relationship.
Okay, great. So it's important for those listening to know that don't have that experience to know that if they're very closed off on the sale of their property, you can always come at them with, well, do you have anybody helping you with the purchase? Because it doesn't cost them directly, the seller's
Yes.
paying for it. And
Yeah,
that's a way
exactly.
in to create a relationship, right?
Yeah, and that's a great way to even start the conversation. Like, hey, like what, so why are you selling? Like, where are you going? Are you moving out of town, or are you just kind of right sizing? Are you getting, going to a bigger house? Yeah, I don't need to sell to buy, but I do want to like look at something, and that's kind of my plan is to buy something else. Okay, well, I can help you with that. And then we can work with that on the commission side, because you'll be working with me with two different transactions. So I can set you up and get you the houses first to your inbox, so we can set up times to take a look at it. And in the meantime, we can talk about, the sale of your house as well.
Great. And how are you keeping track of all of these people? Are you using a CRM? Does the team use a CRM? Are you just sort of old school writing it down? What do you do?
No, no, no. So I mean, we use Boomtown as kind of our CRM, but then I generally do have like a list of people that I need to follow up with. But obviously, once I secure that listing, then we have Dotloop. So that's kind of where my main kind of spaces for all of my sellers. And then Boomtown is kind of like past clients, and everybody's in that database as well.
Yeah, and prospective clients as well, I would assume, right? That you have
Yeah,
to.
so my prospective clients, I'm not as good at keeping them in Boomtown. I am very traditional in that sense of like, I will, if I talk to Mary, Tom, and Joe on Monday, I'm writing them down physically and I'm putting them on my desk so that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I see their names and I remember to follow up with them all the time. If I have to go into my computer system, I have to go there to then see them, whereas I rather see them physically at my office so that I'm remembering like what kind of conversations I had with them, what's my next conversation going to look like, am I going to call them a little bit sooner than I told them, because that's, I kind of want to be a little bit more squeaky in their ear because so many other agents are calling them.
Right.
And then of course we've got those agents who are really really lowering their commission to like crazy low amounts, and you want to be able to not deal with, oh, I got a 3% from somebody else, and you want to still stay on top of that and let them understand that the value that you can have with, of course, honoring your own self-worth.
Right, exactly. And so when you're faced with that, because a lot of people are in many different situations, not just in dealing with for sale by owners, how do you handle the commission situation? That objection.
In regards to if a seller says, oh, some
Someone
other.
else will do it basically for free.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have an issue with that, like for sure. I mean, we as agents need to honor our self-worth, because it just, all it does is devalue what we do as a whole in this industry. So yes, I'm in agreement to lowering and reducing my commission to a certain extent, but how low are you going to go? I mean, that's kind of crazy. I always tell people, well, if you think about it, if they're going to lower their commission to that level, what does that say about how they're going to fight for the price of your house if they're willing to kind of cave so quickly? Also, you pay for what you get. I mean, I always use analogies, like my husband makes fun of me, but I'm big on analogies. You can go to Marshall's and you can buy a great pair of shoes for 20 bucks, but they're probably going to fall apart in like 2 months. But if you go to Nordstrom or Saks, you're going to spend probably 150 and they're going to last you a year. It's the same thing with a real estate agent. You pay for what you get good quality agents if you're paying a price that is worth their value.
Right, absolutely. All right, so now I sort of throw it at you a little bit differently. If you had to start in real estate all over again, let's say, your family was transplanted to a different state, different city, whatever, or you have a niece or nephew somewhere that's just starting out. What would you tell them? How would you advise them to get started in the business? What should they do on a daily basis to lead them to success?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think joining a team when you're first starting out is really important. Not only because you have the camaraderie of your agents around you, but you're also having the education from the agents and the brokers around you. Being on your own, this business is very tough. So starting off on your own and learning all there is to know, and have the confidence and have the time and have the system set in place is really, really difficult. So I would definitely say start on a team. And I would definitely say, be consistent, work hard and be consistent, whether it's creating postcards, whether it's getting on the phone and prospecting, whether it's doing open houses. Business is not going to just fall into your lap. I mean, I know everybody's in this business, but only a small number of them are very successful. And they do that by getting up and working hard for it, not just by sitting back and expecting the business to come to them. And then that's just the reality. You have to work hard and then the results will come. And try not to take it personal. You're going to get shut down. You're going to meet a lot of really mean people who tell you things that are just awful and mean and shut the phone on you and hang up on you. And say that they're going to report you if you call them again, and all the crazy things that we hear on the other side of the phone. But it is what it is. It's just a phone call, and put your big pants on and get up and do it again, because all the no's are eventually going to lead you to a yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Put your big girl, big boy pants on and just do it again. Well, it's true. I mean, if you're prospecting in any manner, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's on the phone, if it's door to door, if it's networking, you're going to get rejected. And it's important to know not to take it personally. It's just another step in the direction of a yes. That's it.
Yes, exactly, for sure. And I think a lot of people are afraid to pick up the phone because of rejection. And I mean, you're not looking at these people, and they're not making any, it's not like if they reject you, it's going to restructure your life on a human level. They're just telling you no, and let them learn the hard way and pick up the phone, and eventually somebody will tell you yes. And I do take things personally. Like, for example, this week I'm having a really tough week with prospecting, and I'm like, oh, this is awful, this is crazy, but like I just get up and I go again and I go again and I go again, until eventually it's all going to pile up and it'll be a couple of yeses.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
It's funny you say
Hopefully.
that because I've had a completely shit week of prospecting. Every day it just seems like it's just getting worse and worse this week. I don't know what's going on with the
I,
alignment of the moon
I
and the
know.
stars, but
It's terrible. It's awful. And it's hard to not get nervous when you're in this commission structure of a job.
yeah.
And I'm hoping that it's just the crazy amount of COVID cases that we had in December and January, and the weather, and people are just kind of like taking a step back. But it's easy to get lazy at that time, and it's easy to just say, okay, forget it. There's no workaround. But if every agent does that, then imagine the business that there is for the agents that are working hard. It's going to eventually work out. It's just something that I mean, we all get down on ourselves about it, and this week is my week, so hopefully it'll turn around quick.
So we're ending it on a good note because we're recording this on a Friday, though this will be released on a Monday. So now that this is over, this is closing the
Yeah,
door to the week, and then it'll be all
yeah,
good. But I'll tell you what, I mean, you know, people get the idea, especially if they're new in the business, that they're going to start prospecting and then right that day they're going to get a listing, and it doesn't work that way. Usually there's a buildup, right, of your activity that takes 30, 60, 90 days, and then it
mhm,
starts paying off. But I'll tell you, I mean, I started on the YouTube channel. There's this prospecting challenge, a daily prospecting challenge for 2 hours a day, just so I could show people exactly what the numbers are, what I've sort of gotten, so that they know what to expect. And so I'm making these calls 2 hours a day, every single day. This is the third week that I've been doing it, and I'm recording it. Like I've prospected obviously for years, but this is like recorded for everybody. And I'm now getting calls from the 2 weeks ago. I got a
yeah,
listing appointment call, from a call that I made 2 weeks ago, a call
yeah,
that I made last week. I got a call last night. So this stuff, even though I had a crappy week of prospecting this week, everything else that I've done in the past starts to come to fruition. So as
yes,
long as people are consistent, that's
yeah.
the key to success.
Absolutely. Consistency is key for sure, because that is exactly what is going to happen next week, is all the no's that I heard and the maybes are going to turn into yeses. But I'm also going to make sure that I follow up with them, so that, whoever from whatever brokerage doesn't get the listing before me. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. You have to be consistent, and you have to be creative. And in that downtime, figure out a way that you can still touch on past clients, or something that you could do in the community to get your word out and your voice out. We were talking about this at a dinner party last night. Like, get videos online and do social media, because you got to be remembered. Even if things are a little slow, do something out there to let people know that you're still around, you're still working, even though there's snow on the ground, or whatever. If you're in Miami, the beach, there's still people that are around who need your help, and they want to see your face.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is be consistent, be persistent, and that will lead to success. Period.
Mhm.
Don't let your foot off the gas. Don't get discouraged. Like you said, you know, put on your pants and keep on going, because that's just the reality of it. Don't take it personally, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And even if you do, because that's like normal human feeling, like, get over it and move on.
Yeah. Make a commitment. In my mind, it's make a commitment to yourself. It's just like working out. It's like anything else. Whatever it is you want to do, you want to learn an instrument, it doesn't matter. You want to be good at yoga, you have to do it consistently. You can't do it once and think, I'm a master. So if you make the commitment to yourself, then you stick to it daily, that's what will lead you to the success of whatever it is that you want to achieve. And in this case, obviously, we're talking about real estate success and prospecting. But
Yeah.
I think it's important to keep that in mind for people that are just getting started. Don't get discouraged. One crappy day is just a crappy day, or a crappy week is a crappy week. It's not going to be the same. The numbers always work out in the end.
Yeah, definitely. And I know on that web on the lab coat agents, people are like, how many people pay for, lead generation? I mean,
Right.
you can pull up Zillow and check out for sale by owners in any city that's surrounding you or that you want to target, and that's free to do. I mean, how many for sale by owner signs do you see? Like when I first started out, or for even now, if I see a for sale by owner in an area or in a house that I know I could sell, I'm stopping my car and getting the number. Like good old fashioned, just write it down. I mean, heck, if you need to go door knocking, go door knocking. That's free too. I know that the guy from Million Dollar Listing, I saw him at a conference in California, and he said his whole first 2 to 3 years of work was door knocking on $1 million properties, and that's how he got his business. There's no shame in door knocking. Like it is what it is, and you can get a lot of great business that way. So, and it's free. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars for online anything. I mean, obviously it is helpful to some degree. I mean, I think you need to balance out what makes sense financially, but you don't need to start this business and dump $10,000 into something when you're not having that return yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sweat equity over check equity in the beginning, especially. And then, like you said, you can start to balance it out. It's also important to know that, work on one or two pillars. You should always work on your database, the people that you know and that like and trust you and all that stuff. That's your database. Work on them. And in your case, for sale by owners or expireds or cold calling, door knocking, networking, doesn't matter. So one or two, and then once you get that, you can start to add other pillars into your business. But
Mhm.
don't just try to do everything at once because that can be very overwhelming and you won't be
Incredible.
consistent.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Just focus on something and let it grow, where you're good at, and figure out what that is, and keep watering it.
Fantastic. So if people want to get a hold of you, let's say they know somebody moving into the Cleveland area, what's the best way to send you referrals?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, you can contact me directly with my cell phone. I don't know if you're getting my 216-544-6783. You can also email me, Carlyn at the Cracket Team. There's three T's in the middle over there. A lot of people get that mistaken. But yeah, absolutely. And of course, finding me on Facebook, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram for sure. I'd love to help out any way I can.
Fantastic. Everybody, remember to like, share, and subscribe to these videos to get more of this content and these interviews with successful agents, to get tips and tricks to help you bring your business to the next level. Carlin, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your story. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Lauren, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. All right, everybody, take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.